So today what we're going to do is we're going to draw object number 5. And to draw object number 5, we're going to just start off and make sure that we have, number 1, renamed our document so we're not drawing over top of our title block. We've got our visible class selected and we're in the orthographic layer. We're going to start with a rectangle, and the rectangle is going to be 5 by -3 and a half. That's just going to bring it down into our document. Now, honestly, I've preemptively scaled this because I know that the object's a little bit big. Just as a reminder how to scale, you come up to your scaling option. So again, to get that, we're going to double click on the layer stack. Once we double click on the layer stack, we're going to double click on the orthographic layer, hit the button that says scale, and I'm going with a 1.6 to kind of keep this on my document. And I'm going to click OK. And now I can continue. And what's nice about this object is this object also requires us to set an origin point. So I'm going to go ahead and set my origin point. Remember, for setting the origin point, we need to be in the top plan. And I'm going to go to this upper left-hand corner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 2 lines, one visible, one hidden. And the first thing I'm going to do is in the hidden line, it needs to be a ½ of an inch away from my origin point in the negative. So I'm going to do -1/2 over here, my object info. And I'm then going to duplicate that line, and I can just do some simple math here. I've got 3.5. If I want it to be a ½ inch away from the other one, I would just make this one -3, and now I have both of those lines. Notice how I only drew one, and then I duplicated it and moved it that way. This one here is going to be 1 inch away, so 1, and then I'm going to duplicate that line. Once I duplicate that line, I want to be 1 inch from the other side, so this one's going to be at the 4 mark. And from here, I can now draw my circle, also in the visible class. My circle is going to be 1/4 of an inch radius, or a ½ inch diameter. And because that first shape is a square, I've got that center point, I can then verify that to the center of my object. I'm going to take this whole object, and I'm just going to nudge it up here a little bit in my printable area. And it's now time for me to go and do my guide class. So I'm just going to bring my guide class down, holding down the Shift key. And to help us with some spacing today, I've got another suggestion for us. I'll bring down this circle. My suggestion is I'm going to draw one more guideline, and I'm going to make that guideline 1.5 inches away. And that 1.5 inches away, I will be able to now take my object and start with the 2D polygon tool back in the visible class. This is going to be my starting point. So I'm going to be able to come over here, down 3/4 of an inch, over, up, to be level, across. And then this overall length here is going to be 2.25. I'm just going to bring that over to meet. And then there's my object. So here's another opportunity for us to get our origin point. So I'm going to take my hidden class here. I'm going to draw a line across. And my hidden line needs to be 3/4 of an inch from the bottom. So I'm going to take my origin point, I'm going to select that into my new corner, and over here I'm going to make sure that my Y says 3/4 of an inch. Now I got lucky there. That barely ever happens that I'm able to draw that exactly where it needs to be, but it's now in that 3/4 of an inch, and from there I can now take my normal hidden lines for my hole and my center line for my hole. And remember, for the center line, you want to start just above and you want to go just below. I know a lot of us have been having issues with the center line not centering itself. With the pattern of the line, we're gonna look into some solutions for that here as we continue to go. But for right now, just kind of let that lie as it's going to be. We're going to go back to the guide class, and it's now time in the guide class to give me my 45-degree angle. And from my 45, we're going to bring this down to my overall shape here. We're kind of doing this all nimbly-bimbly and out of order. think that's everything I want to bring down and over. And now what I need to do is it's time for me to get my 2D polygon tool. I'm going to switch back over to my visible class. And in my visible class, I'm just going to start down here. I'm going to make this object. And there's my object. It's now time to get my line tool. Let's go to the hidden line section. I'm going to have a hidden line coming across here. And I think this is also a great time for me to take these 3 lines and duplicate them and bring that over into that center section as well. And there we go. Now it's time for me to finish my drawing by coming up to View Class Options, Active Only. We're going to go over here to the Guide class. We're going to select it all. We're going to delete it. We're then going to go back up. Class Options shows Snap Modify Others, and it's time to put my center mark in. So I'm going to grab my center mark tool. Now, this is where a little caveat starts to occur. I'm going to be in my center class here. You're going to notice that if I select that, you see how small my center line is, or my center mark? I'm going to go ahead and delete that for right now. If you scale after the fact, and I'm just going to make this 1 for now. We know it's too big, right? We know it's too big. What's interesting about the program is if I put that center mark in now, it's nice and big on my object. And then what I can do is I can come back in here and rescale this. And when I rescale it, for some reason, the center mark does not minimize itself. And then what I want to do is I just want to select all of that and put it down here in my printable area. I could probably even afford to go a little bit bigger on this object, selecting a different scale. Right, I'm just trying to fill that printable area. And now that I only have 1.5 inches here in between the objects, I could probably even afford to go a little bit bigger, maybe a 1.3. But yeah, this is object number 5.